Hi, I'm Val from GadgetGuy. Welcome back to the channel, or for those that are new, glad to have you here. So I have Samsung's brand new top-of-the-range OLED screen. This is the S95F here with me. We saw this earlier in Las Vegas where we had a sneak peek, but now we've actually had some proper time with it to see what it's like. Samsung says this is more intelligent and cinematic than ever before. But before we get started, I just want to give you a bit of behind-the-scenes info. So normally when you shoot a video for TVs, we would black out the area and make sure that the lights don't reflect off of the screen. However, the S95D last year made a huge splash because it was one of the first OLED TVs that had an anti-reflective coating. Now, normally OLEDs are highly reflective and it limits where you can put it, especially near a big window. However, the S95D solved this. Now this year, the S95F has improved on that anti-reflective coating. So I want you to keep an eye on this screen throughout this video because some of our lights are going to be placed to reflect off of it, and hopefully you won't be able to see them. Look, I think that it's improved slightly again, although Samsung hasn't told us exactly how much of an improvement this new coating makes, but it does still have the same Pantone certified colors, meaning that it doesn't affect the colors on screen, and I really haven't noticed any type of color cast. So I think that more of this is always a good thing. So Samsung has gone big on OLED this year because I think that they know how much people really like that OLED look, and that's characterized by high contrast as well as those pure blacks. Now what they've done is there used to be only 2 OLED models in the range. Now there are 3 this year, so it's a good, better, best thing. There's the S85, there's the S90, and then there's the S95 top of the range, like this one here. They've also, compared to last year, the biggest panel you could get was 77 inches. Now they have expanded that out to 83 inches of OLED goodness, which is fantastic. So there's some other changes versus last year's S95D. They've skipped E for some reason, so the S95F has improvements to picture quality, so I'm going to take you through those. The design has changed a little bit this year in as much as you can change a ultra-thin, nearly borderless design. This is Samsung's Infinity One design language. So the panels have got a little bit thinner this year. The 83-inch here is just 12.6 millimeters, and the 77-inch is just 11 millimeters. So they've shaved just a little bit off the thickness. You can still connect them to a wall mount, a standard Visa mount. It's amazing that they even have enough room for you to be able to screw some screws into the back of the panel. Otherwise, I think the design looks great. There's a nice texture on the back of the panels. This is a 422 sound configuration, Dolby Atmos, so you'll see some of the speakers at the back on the left and right. For those that don't know, we still get Samsung's One Connect box. Now this is a fantastic design because it allows you to connect all of your cables into a box, and that can actually sit separately from the TV. I mean, this one is sitting right behind here on the base, but you can run a cable, just a single cable, to another location, say in an entertainment console, to put that box, and then you can be pretty much clutter-free when it comes to cables. Now lastly, the stand, it's one of the center-based stands. I like these because it doesn't matter how big the TV is because it's just based on that center stand, so you don't have to worry about the legs being too far towards the edges of a screen to fit on your entertainment console. The stand is pretty sturdy, maybe just moves a little bit, but otherwise I think that it's a pretty good design, and they've just made it just a little bit thinner. The S95F uses a 4K 165 Hz panel. This is an OLED screen, however, there are some differences between the OLED technology used on the bigger 83-inch model and the 77-inch models and smaller. Those ones use quantum dot OLED or QD-OLED, whereas this 83-inch model here uses W-OLED. Without getting too techy, W-OLED uses white plus red, green, and blue to make up the picture, whereas QD-OLED just has red, green, and blue. What I can tell you is it's really difficult to notice any differences between the two technologies because we have a 77-inch version in the other room. Vincent from HD TV Test does an excellent job in testing this, and he found that the W-OLED version is very good. Okay, new this year is that the panel gets a massive 30% brighter versus last year's model. And brightness is really important to add that realism to what you're watching. There are some modes that take advantage of this, including Quantum HDR OLED Pro as well as HDR brightness optimizer. The net result is that you're really using that dynamic range now as things get really bright, peaky brightness, and then also some great contrasty dark scenes. What's really interesting about all of this is that they've increased the brightness without actually increasing the overall energy that the TV requires. So it's not necessarily going to be working harder, using more energy, or potentially even getting hotter while it's doing this. So I think that's a really good technology advancement that you'll see across the board. Speaking of power consumption, so with the 83-inch, in the most maximum settings, screen as bright as possible, it can consume up to 710 watts, but just in typical normal viewing, you're looking at about 258 watts, or over the year, you're looking at about 908 kilowatt hours consumed. For comparison, if you look at the 65-inch version, you're looking at about 158 watts in just typical use, and about 558 kilowatt hours over the year. So AI is a big part of this TV's picture quality. It actually gets a new chip this year, a more powerful one. So this is the NQ4 AI Gen 3. So versus the Gen 2 last year, this has 128 neural networks. So it's able to have more powerful 4K upscaling. That means that it will take lower quality content. It'll identify objects in that content, and it will know how to add information to make that look much better. So this is really handy when you're streaming, say, SD content. Also, this new AI chip really does enhance picture quality across the board in a number of different ways. Plus, there's a new AI mode that identifies the content you're watching. So it could be sport or it could be a movie, and then it will optimize the settings automatically for you, so you don't have to do anything. And that's everything from the color to the contrast to the brightness, all of those things. However, there are also custom modes that you can choose from, and it will remember these modes, so you can set up a picture profile that you like the look of using AI. You can turn this all off too, which is great. I don't believe last year you had the option of just switching off all of this enhancement. And we're going to actually take a look at some of it when it's on versus off. And in my opinion, I actually preferred it off in some cases. Watching Cruella, for example, I preferred everything switched off. For me, it seemed to brighten up the backgrounds. I felt that there was more color there. I like that look better, but really what it comes down to is what you prefer. And it's good that there's now a customizable AI mode, not just the standard AI adjusts everything for you. Look, I have to say, for me, OLED screens are my preference. I just love those deep blacks that only OLED can produce. And the S95F is already building on a very good foundation from the S95C to D. But what I have noticed this year is that the matte coating that was introduced last year just seems less obvious. It seems to be there, but it's doing its job better, but it actually is a little more subtle at the same time. And I really like that. But otherwise, look, I mean, this, the 83-inch, the colors are so bright, they're vibrant, they don't sort of wash out. We've done a whole bunch of testing just around color purity, so the colors are pure all the way up to the edges of the screen. In terms of motion, it's very, very responsive. Moving text is super sharp and clear. You have some great modes already, like sport mode, which is a 200 hertz mode, making sure that the ball is nice and clear as it moves across the screen. So there's really already so many excellent features in this TV, and they're just adding to it this year. I think this is their best job yet. That added brightness really does add to the realism, especially for explosions and bright sunny lit scenes where it really does have that extra punch. You kind of forget that you're on OLED, because OLED traditionally is dimmer than a mini LED, for example. So look, I think that you'll be really, really pleased with the picture quality here. It's up there with the best, if not the best. I mean, there are some great models out from the other brands. However, I think this is something that really is competing this year. So look, in terms of the 83-inch versus the 77 and smaller, the different OLED technologies, that's not a worry in my mind. I haven't noticed any difference at all. So look, just sit back and watch a movie on this, and I think you'll love it just like I do. Wow, it's amazing to think that Star Wars was made in 1977 and it still looks absolutely fantastic, especially on this beautiful OLED panel. Wow. Well, look, when it comes to controlling the interface and controlling the TV, I really like that Samsung has their One UI Tizen interface. So this is a full screen interface. There's some minor tweaks this year versus last year. I think that the little boxes have curved edges now. But the whole idea is that it kind of looks at what you're watching and then curates menu items based on what you watch. So, you know, something that you might watch more often. If you watch more Netflix, it might surface that higher up on the list. There's also an easy access to controls. Plus, with the new chip, which is the Gen 3 model, it's much snappier than before. So I can hop in and out of, say, the games menu faster than I could on my older Samsung S95C TV. Also, I think that people might forget about this is that you get Samsung Plus. Now, this is over 100 channels of streaming content, and it's everything from bingeable stuff to comedies to movies. You know, you can watch Point Break or a bit of Baywatch or Conan O'Brien, Hell's Kitchen. There's all kinds of things to watch on there, so there's never any reason not to have something on for you. So I think that's great. Plus, there's some other features. This connects to Samsung's SmartThings ecosystem, and that links to all of its smart compatible devices. So for example, you could see video camera feeds from security cameras or see a map of all of the smart devices in your home and control it with your remote. There's Samsung Workspace, which is a way for you to connect to Office apps on your big screen. And lastly, it uses their Knox security layer because you're doing, I guess, more personal things on your TV, so it makes sure that everything is nice and secure. But last but not least, you do get 7 years of OS updates. That means that you'll get the new features that come out for 7 more years from your first year. Some other TV brands might give you 3 or 5. And I think this is really great because you can get access to those new features as they come out. And plus it goes to show you just how powerful that new Gen 3 chip is because it has the capability to manage not only what you're getting now in the interface, but what is coming along the line. So very cool. Now, of course, sound is a huge part of the overall experience. With the panel itself, there's an 8-speaker system that's a Dolby Atmos system. It has some pretty cool features like object tracking sound, and that's based on the positioning of the speakers in the panel. You can actually get this effect where when an object moves across, the sound kind of follows it, so that's really cool. Also, it has Q-Symphony, and what that means is that it can work in conjunction with a Samsung soundbar, so all the speakers in the TV stay on if you connect it to a soundbar, and then you get the addition of all the extra speakers in the soundbar itself. Now, there is a new soundbar. This is the Q-Symphony Q990F. It's a perfect match for this TV. This has, believe it or not, 23 speakers inside this. This, of course, is another Dolby Atmos system with DTS and all kinds of other support for other sound formats, up-firing, side-firing, front-firing speakers. It also has a wireless Atmos, so it can transmit those signals wirelessly, Bluetooth, but it has a cool mode as well, and this is the best part. Working in conjunction with this is the new subwoofer, which is about half the size of the previous subwoofer, which I had, and it's actually quite a bit bigger, quite a bit heavier, but this kicks out, I swear, just the same amount of sound. It really is impressive what they're able to produce out of this here, which you have both speakers on both sides here. And I was watching All Quiet on the Western Front, and I have to say, with this setup, plus the 2 rears as well, it is amazing. Great sound separation, bullets seemingly flying everywhere in the air, really, really low-end bass kick for those explosions and those gunshots. It really did add so much dimension to watching this movie. So all up, I think the sound setup here is fantastic. If you can stretch for a subwoofer, I would definitely recommend it. You know, TV panels can be a little bit limited in terms of the speakers that they can fit into them. So really impressed with this Q-Symphony Q990F. The S95F is great for gamers as well because the panel is 165 Hertz now, and that's increased from 144 Hertz before. Of course, the higher the Hertz, the smoother, the more frames it can manage. This is, of course, supporting variable refresh rates up to 165 Hertz. You can connect consoles as well, and they'll run at 120 Hertz as normal. Speaking of panel sizes too, there's going to be a 42 and a 48-inch panel size. I think that's great for gamers because it's more compact and you can put that in the bedroom as well. So I think that that's going to open up a lot of options there. There's an AI game mode, and that identifies the game type that you're using. So maybe first-person shooter or real-time strategy or something like that, and it'll just optimize the settings for you so you don't have to. There's also a auto low latency mode, just to really cut down on that latency. I know that HD TV Test actually checked out input lag on this TV, and they actually found it to be very, very good. So that's good news as well. There's a lot of other things like ultra-wide gaming mode and other features like the game bar that appears to give you information about your gaming session and all the settings. So yeah, great news. Nintendo is partnering with Samsung for the launch of its Switch 2, and they've chosen the S95F TVs to showcase how the games look. So I guess they like the way this TV looks with their games. So keep an eye out for that in the next coming months as well. So is Samsung's new S95F a more intelligent and cinematic TV than the years before it? Well, look, I think that with the new Gen 3 AI chip, it does have the ability to make smarter choices in terms of both audio as well as picture quality settings for you. However, I really do like the custom AI modes where you can define how you want, say, sport or movies to look, and then it can figure out what you're watching and then just apply those settings for you automatically. The 83-inch here behind us is definitely more cinematic just in terms of that sheer size, and more OLED screen size is always a good thing in my opinion. But in addition to that, I think that having that 30% greater brightness really, really does make a big difference here. I think this is very important because other OLED TVs from competitor brands are also getting brighter, and that really does add to the realism. In addition to that, I think that the faster 165 Hz panel is great for smoothness, great for gamers. And lastly, of course, that anti-glare coating gets improved. I think that's a real differentiating factor between this OLED and others because you can use this in brightly lit, sunny living rooms, and it really does minimize and sort of blend out those reflections. So really well done. I think this is definitely a step forward from last year. Otherwise, I think what's good about the pricing is that it hasn't increased from 2024. So yes, these are premium products with higher prices, but at least they haven't gone up. Otherwise, if you're in the market for an OLED, and I really do like that OLED picture look, I think this is a great one to look at. So definitely go into an electronics shop and check it out. Thanks so much for your company watching the Samsung S95F. Also, if you have any questions, please leave one in the comments and let us know what kind of videos you'd like to see. The channel has really been growing and I really, really appreciate your guys' support. So love to know what kind of video or what product you'd like to see us cover next. I'm Val Quinn and I will see you then. By the way, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it.